We have the collar put on, and you want to stitch it where it's attached on the inside so that it can fold over the seam so that it looks like this. There you go. And then I put a little stitch right in the center there to hold it down. So the next step is the skirt, and all we're going to do is take a measurement of the waistline of this, which should hopefully still be around 29 inches if I haven't put on too much weight, you know what I mean? And then gather the top of the fabric to the same length, and then it'll just easily attach. Before gathering my waist seam, I am putting a very simple hem on the bottom. You can use a hem foot, or you can roll it over and do it by hand manually. What I mentioned before about gathering the waistline using a gather foot and not being sure if it's the exact same length as your waist is, I have found the center of my skirt and pinned it to the center of the bodice. The skirting is longer. Okay, so it's pretty easy to manage this. You're going to sew it from the gather side up, which means that you're going to want to pin it going this way as you'd feed it into your machine this way. So find the center point of your skirt, the gathered part, and the center point of your bodice, and pin that together. So end to end, just find it, give it a little pin. And all you'll do is, so this is my waist seam, or the side right here. I'm gonna hold the pins together. I'm gonna grab this gather here, and I know that's the center point of that. I'm just gonna pin that to the waist seam. And you can keep repeating this step until these little bits in between become smaller and smaller. So we'll go hold it together. You can find the center there, find the center there, and just grab that one and grab that one. And honestly, it's okay if you're just like a little bit off, because what we're gonna do is push the gathered part in to meet the top part. All right, so I've got one side done. I'll do the other side, but let me show you how to sew this. We have a waistline. If you're curious about finishings, the way that I'm doing my inside is serging or overlocking them. You can zigzag them or you can bind them. I definitely suggest finishing your edges with some technique. So the next thing we're gonna do is put a zipper in, and then it's adding the decor to the front, which is just choosing a button of your choice. And she's pretty much done. I've gone over recently how to install a zipper, but just a very quick little refresher. Gone ahead and finished off the edges of both sides of the dress, including the collar. And then I've ran a stitch about 9 inches away from the waist seam, like where the bottom of the zipper would be. Ran a stitch down to the edge of the hem. So essentially you have an opening in the dress like this, which is where we'll set in our zipper. I'm gonna use an invisible zipper, and I won't show you that because I just did a tutorial about invisible zippers. So if you need to refresh that, I can provide the link below for you. At this point, I've put the zipper in the back, and everything is looking pretty darn cute. The one thing I need to do is stitch the buttons here, and they're just faux buttons. One thing I wanted to talk about is what happens at the back of the collar. There's a couple different ways that can, this looks crazy. Like, what is that? One thing that I can do is flip this under like this and hand stitch it down and just let it lie. Or I can fold it under and stitch it together and actually put a little stitch at the top of the zipper there, because most likely the collar will fold up. I don't know what it's going to be yet. That's the joy of sewing. Kind of figure it out as you go sometimes, at least when you're modifying patterns. I'm going to make a little snip right here. And this will allow me to turn this under. And then I'm going to fold it like this. Put a little pin in it. And I think I'm just going to hand stitch this down. I know that sounds kind of wild, but I think that's what's going to happen. Let's match these so nicely so they're not looking too wacky. And then at the end, after I've hand stitched this down next to it, I'm just going to put a little hook and eye right at the top. And then I'll allow this all to sit nicely. Okay, this dress is so cute, and sports bra aside, so sorry about that, it turned out pretty darling. This shoulder wants to do something funny here too. I kind of actually don't mind that it wants to go in, and it makes the sleeve a little bit more comfortable. But I don't mind the little ruffles going in either. Or you can just move the seam, you can just readjust the seam. Or if you wanted to, you could actually just stitch the seam, you know, going out. To keep the ruffles going this way, I am stitching the inside seam towards the collar so that the ruffle faces out, and this will help keep the ruffle facing outwards instead of wanting to fold in. So that you can see what I've done, here's the front of the dress, and this was a top stitch. I don't know if that's really blown out. So I've just top stitched with a similar color thread, the ruffles going outwards, and that should help that. And I've only gone from where I've sewn the ruffle